Hey everyone, I'm Will Goad with Client Development here at RoboHead, and welcome to the next session in Converge 2023. We're looking at feedback on your creative assets. Are you collecting garbage or gold from your stakeholders? Before we get started though, we've got a little bit of housekeeping. I want to remind everyone that we've got a chat option, and we'd encourage you to use that to ask questions and engage with us. Either myself or other members of the team will be responding to you. We want all of your questions. We want to provide you as much information as possible, and we want your feedback as well. If you like winning prizes, another thing I want to make you aware of is that you can earn more entries to win prizes by reviewing us on G2. So if you go into the lobby info desk in the Excel events link that you're on, you'll be able to go review us on G2 and get more entries to win prizes. And then finally, the recording for this session and other sessions will be available after the session concludes. So you'll just go to the agenda tab and get access to it. With that in mind, let's jump in. And when we're talking about creative and making good revisions, getting feedback from your stakeholders, I think it's important to know it just doesn't show up, right? We've got to work for it. And you know that if you've ever had to wade through a bunch of different PDFs or email trails or kind of disjointed or random Slack or Teams messages, you know that sending out creative for a review and ultimately approval is not as simple as it sounds, especially if you're trying to wrangle feedback from multiple stakeholders. I've got a client, for example, that actually regularly has like 20 different people on a single piece of creative providing feedback and ultimately approval for them. That doesn't just show up. You've got to really work to get that good feedback. And ultimately, if you get good feedback, you're going to get better creative, right? So let's talk a little bit about what the problem is that we're trying to solve. I already alluded to it. Collecting feedback from a single person, let alone several people, can be extremely difficult. Not only do you have to get people to actually provide you feedback in a reasonable amount of time, you also have to deal with feedback from multiple folks that might be confusing, might be contradicting of each other, or it could even be irrelevant. Like they're telling you about things that you have no control over or that don't really matter for what you're trying to do. So those things are difficult. I mean, it's hard enough to make, edits and changes on feedback that is useful. When you have to wade through a bunch of other mess, that can be a real big challenge. So what's the solution? I think it's really, it sounds simple, but it revolves around clarity. You don't want to assume that your stakeholders are going to do the right thing. I've used this phrase, you can't just throw it over the fence and be like, hey, tell me what you think. We really need to set clear expectations on what it is that we want our stakeholders to do. Help them understand what you need from them, because most people want to give you what you need. Most people want to be helpful. So it's really about setting clear expectations on what you want from them and also what you don't want from them. And I would say that, I can say for myself at least that sometimes I'll wait to bring people in because I want it to be just right or whatever. And there's certainly a place for that. But I think oftentimes communicating and collecting feedback early and often in the review process, in the iteration process, is actually better in the long run. So the solution to this problem really is you want to give your stakeholders clarity on what you need. And the benefit is that if we set clear expectations, that means that we're controlling what we can control, and we're making it more likely that feedback from all of our stakeholders, or at least most of them, is going to be more concise, more clear, more relevant, and ultimately that makes it more useful. And what does that do for us? That allows us to produce better deliverables, and better deliverables drive greater outcomes for our projects. So today we're going to look at 3 ways that you can actually use the tools within RoboHead to ensure that better feedback. And it really revolves around notifications. And so let's jump in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to the RoboHead tool now. And those of you that have used RoboHead, you know that when you are sending out reviews to someone, they get an email notification. And so that's really the first thing that we can do. If there's general communication around how you want folks to review your files, let's go ahead and use that email template to communicate that. So if you're an administrator in RoboHead, you have access to the account tab here. And once you go over over to the account tab, there's this actions drop down. And in that drop down, you can access the email templates. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you our standard review notification template. And if we open it up, we can see that template information, and we can kind of say, you know, we're giving them the review name, we're telling them what the project name is, and we're telling them who the reviewers are. But what you also can do is you could add text, or you could even add an image here, and, you know, giving folks a better kind of direction. And so what I've done is I've actually said, hey, this is general reviewing information, how we do things, how we expect our stakeholders to review. It's for everyone, regardless of what you're reviewing or who you are. We have these general rules that we want you to follow. So I've actually put in some help text, really simple, said if you're new to reviewing, please click here. And then I've created a hyperlink that ultimately is going to drive them to a help article or a video or something like that. It's pretty simple to edit this. So I've just added some text, and then here I went up and I said, hey, I want to add a hyperlink, and I click on it and I add the link that I want them to go to. So fairly straightforward. Once I've created this, I can save that template. And now what you'll see is when a notification goes out to a reviewer, you can see it pretty clearly. Hey, Trevor, we need you to go ahead and review this document. And here you go. If you've never reviewed before, go ahead and click here. And if I click there, it'll take me to a Help Center article or a video that shows me how my organization wants to review. What I would encourage you is you can certainly use our Help Center articles, but I found that some clients like to put together short tutorials or videos that show their customers exactly how they want them to engage with proofs. So that's the first example, is real quick, in the email template, just add a link to a video or an article that shows them how you want them to engage with the proof. So that's fairly general, but what about more specific? Like, let's say we are trying to provide direction to our proofreaders. Well, what we can do there is we can actually come in and modify the project template within, that we're using to kind of drive our projects. And so if you're familiar with the project templates, there's a schedule that folks can use. And that schedule is going to contain a series of tasks and reviews where people are going to have to go in and ultimately complete that. And so what I have is I have this copy review here. And on the template, I can do this on an individual project as well, but I'm going to do mine on the template so that we're kind of sending it out and we set it once and forget it. You can actually modify that review. And what you'll see here is that the review itself, you have the ability at the template or at the project level to customize the notification that's going. So I showed you what that standard notification is that goes out regardless of what review it is. This is where you can actually kind of tie it down to the exact type of review. So in this scenario, I want my proofreader to know that, hey, they've been assigned to review copy for a project, and we want them to review copy by the assigned due date. And this is where I'm getting more clear. I've said, hey, I want you to focus your feedback on a few key things, namely grammar and spelling, general tone of the copy, clarity of the message, and if there's any compliance language, I want you to focus on that. And I've also reminded them to go ahead and use the text markup tools and ask if they need help. And I could even put some contact information there if I wanted to. And so what does that look like once we save that at the template level? Well, now when my proofreader, in this case Sanaya, gets an email notification to review, not only is she being told that she needs to do copy review on this project, she's also given that general direction that we expect our proofreaders to kind of take under advisement and review the proof, with that in mind. So if we look at our first example, it was really general. How do you review? And then we've stepped down and we've gotten more specific and said, hey, this is how we want our copywriters or our proofreaders to review. And now we're going to get even more specific with this third example, and we're going to go into a specific proof, a specific asset that we're asking folks to review. And on that asset, I'm not just going to send some general instructions in an email. I am actually going to mark up the proof and draw my reviewers' attention to exactly what I want them to look at. And so in this scenario, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to actually add a comment. And I'm going to go find the button because I want Sanaya to be checking the hyperlinks. And particularly, I want her to be checking hyperlinks on any buttons that we have on this web page. And so I'm going to take my comment tool. I'm going to drop it here on the button, and I'm going to mention Sanaya. And I'm going to say, hey, can you please review the web page for hyperlinks? And now save that comment. And now Sanaya is going to get an email notification. And that email notification is going to include a link that brings her not just to the review, but brings her directly to the comment that tells her what we're expecting to do. So again, if we kind of stair step it in, we've got this general direction for all of our reviewers. We have specific direction around certain reviews, proofreading, for example. And then we have very project or asset-focused direction for one specific task. In this case, reviewing the hyperlinks on all of on my created asset. So this is a way that we're able, again, to kind of very quickly come in and provide this incrementally more detailed guidance to our clients. The takeaways for this are you want to be as direct and clear as possible. And if you can do that in a general way in a template, that's great. If you want to do it more specifically, that's great as well. And so, second bullet, if you have general instructions, share that in our email and workflow template so that you can set it once and it just always works. And then if you have very specific instructions around specific projects or reviews, you can use our messaging and our markup tools to provide those instructions to the right folks and bring them in when they need to. So I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions, we'll answer those. And if you need help accessing any of the tools that we talked about today, setting up those email templates or those workflow templates, please don't hesitate to reach out either in the chat or reach out to us afterwards, and our support team will be happy to help you. Up next, we're going to be speaking with Lisa from Lehigh Valley, and she's going to be looking at how her team found 5 RoboHead essentials that they use to maximize their operational efficiency. Thanks so much for joining, and I hope you guys have an amazing rest of the conference.